Go, Sean.
Okay. I'd like to call the Municipal Utility Board meeting to order on September 23rd, 2025. Would anyone like to make a motion to consider the approval of the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Moved. A presentation from the Western Dakota Regional Water System. Good morning. Good morning.
There is a copy of the presentations in the back of. Yep.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. My name is Kristen Conzit, and I am the Executive Director of Western Dakota, I was going to say Western South Dakota, Western Dakota Regional Water System. It is a nonprofit agency that has been working for the past 5 years on the idea of bringing a pipeline from the Missouri River to Western South Dakota, north of, they call it the metro area, the people that I work with. Like, we don't use that term out here, but north of Rapid City. What we're here to talk about today with the pipeline, with the water main or the pipeline idea that we're talking about, is that we are all interdependent. The aquifers in which we're tapping into, which are underneath the Black Hills, are being tapped at a very high rate. So we are all interdependent into those different aquifers. And so Western South Dakota, like I had stated, has spent 5 years putting a plan together. And the main plan is the water pipeline, but we also have been working, as engineers do, on a Plan B. I call it Plan A+, but we are governed by a board of directors, much like you here, that meet monthly and oversee everything from policy guidelines, fiscal oversight, long-term planning. And those board members represent the members that are 50 strong right now in Western Dakota Regional Water. If you look at the first slide, I'm going to show you, it's the one with the chart, and it's got the yellow center in there. This is what kicked it off. Western Dakota Water District, which is oversees most of the Black Hills water, had future use water rights. And I want you to think water, it's a tradable commodity. It's like a chip. Every gallon is a chip. So it is worth something. It has value. Western Dakota had some use water rights, or future use water rights with the state of South Dakota. And that means in the future, if they need to, they can tap into more water rights out here in the Black Hills. And they wanted to know if they should renew it. So they engaged the South Dakota School of Mines to do a study. And the study that's in front of you is what came out. And it said not only should you renew your future water rights, but we have documented that there is an initial problem that we need to address when it comes to future water rights or future water usage. So we're right now somewhere in the middle, in the yellow area. And if you look at the 3 orange lines going up, that's the base on population, which is where we are in the Black Hills area right now, roughly, a little bit over 1% growth. But then we added in the 2% and the 3%. So all of this study was based on the past, based on the 1% growth. And so what that's showing is that they did need to retain their water rights, and we needed to get started on a study, and that is how Western Dakota Regional Water was formed, just as a nonprofit to do exploratory work. If you look at the next slide, and it's the one with Western South Dakota in blue, those are the wells sunk into the aquifers that currently are in Western South Dakota. Now, if you look at, there are 390 registered aquifers or punches down into wells. Now, that does not include private. You have a threshold that you have to meet with the state. If you're over so many residents, so many lines, then you have to register to the state. That does not include private or small subdivisions that I believe are under 20. So there would be a lot more punches down into the aquifers. Right now, there are 390 registered, 390 in the state, 304 are in the Black Hills. So that means that we have a lot of straws going down into the aquifers right now. The next slide I'd like to show you is with the purple line that exaggerates and goes up. That's the water allocation for each of the aquifers that are out here. They don't change. But if you look at the purple line, the water allocation growth from 1980 to 2024. In 1980, there were 10,000 acre feet, and that's how we measure water, is by an acre feet. In 2024, we're at 80,000 acre feet. There's been an 8 times increase. Now that can come up for a variable of reasons: population growth, definitely increase in pumping, rainfall, which, my goodness, we've had a great year with the rainfall. But as you'll see further on, that is not enough to recharge the aquifers to where we need to be. That is what Western Dakota Regional Water is doing. We are coming up with solutions to the plan. Now, if you look at the third slide, which shows, it looks like almost like a weather map, and it's got the, the red in the middle. We knew that if we were going to come out with such a bold plan, that we knew we had to have a third party. So we engaged USGS, and they are a federal agency, but over the last 20 years, the feds give them about half of what they need to do their projects, and then they have to go out and search out funding like the rest of us, or financial support. But we knew we wanted to engage them. This is the study that, if you've noticed lately, is put us in the news. What they did was they evaluated the aquifer health, estimated the water availability, estimated the current water budget, which is use versus need, and supporting planning for sustainable and future growth. Now, if you look at that map, we are in some serious trouble when it comes to the swath just north of here, down pretty far, down to, I believe, Buffalo Gap in that area. And what that means in the findings, which you'll find on the next page, it's this summary of the USGS study. Some parts of the Black Hills, people are using more groundwater than nature can put back each year. The last major study of the region's water was done in the 90s. Since then, the population in the Black Hills has grown a total of 20%, and more water is flowing through the system. Average yearly rainfall currently is a little higher, 0.8 inches more, but looking through longer records through 22 back to 1998. More rain has led to about 9% more water soaking into the ground from streams. And natural springs that flow from the limestone aquifers are also producing more water than previously measured. However, pumping from the wells has increased even faster. About 26% faster are coming out of the wells. So what does this all mean? If you look at it, you can see the northern hills, they have water, they're flush. Spearfish in that area, it's something about being at the northern end of the Black Hill.
Including us, we're Northern Hills.
Yes. So you guys are flush with water. If you start looking at that map and you start looking at anything east, New Underwood, they have radionuclides and arsenic in their water. We've done a massive amount of research. So what happened is when the ARPA money came out for the state, there was $690 million that was focused on water. Western Dakota, because of the study that School of Mines did, we were able to engage, and we received $10 million of that money. Now, most nonprofits would go out and have a party and do a big splash, and here we are, and we're on it, and that type of thing. We did the exact opposite. We took our $10 million, and we engaged engineers to come in and find solutions, feasible solutions, not just throwing dart at the board solutions. They've spent the past 4.5 years coming up with two plans for Western South Dakota. The USGS report that just came out just confirmed that, yes, we are all interdependent on each other, but where the good water is. There's some up near Belfouche, and when you get into that area, there's some very unreliable water. There's contamination. I wouldn't buy gasoline in Ulrich's. Their water is so contaminated. It's bad. Same with when you go down the whole eastern range down to Edgemont. There are some alarming facts that have come out when we've gone through and done water testing. Now, it's not to say that they're letting it into the public, but they're doing everything that they can to counterpoint the poison that is in their water. So that has pushed up our agenda a little bit more. We are helping our members, and they are members, so we can start finding solutions for them. Because what we're looking at here, if you know of Lewis and Clark, that came out is in Sioux Falls. The idea for Lewis and Clark started 40 years ago. They are just finishing, and they didn't anticipate the growth in the Sioux Falls area, so they're having to build a Lewis and Clark 2. We have taken with our engineers the idea that we must. It's like when you see a highway and you know that there should be a turning lane in the middle. Why didn't they just put the turning lane in? Because we knew traffic was coming, that there would be increased traffic. We have taken our schematics and built it for future, just population growth. That's not just to address economic development, which seems to have been tied, as I was stating before. If you bring more water, then more people will come and we will turn into California. That's not what this is about. There should be no politicizing water. Clean, safe, reliable water for the citizens of the Black Hills, or I should say all of western South Dakota, but a majority of our members are here in the Black Hills. How much water are we looking at? We're looking at the pump station. Well, the pump station now, and in the proposal will be coming out soon publicly, will be north at the Oahe Dam, on the Fort Pierce side. And it will be a 161-mile pipeline that is 7 feet wide, 2,000-foot lift.
North on the Fort Pierce, I thought it was up by the headwater, up by the dam.
It's above the
existing
dam.
Pump station, yeah.
There is an existing pump station that if you're on a boat looking at the dam and here's the big towers, in the 1970s it was the agricultural pump station. We looked at taking that. There were three options. We were looking below the dam on the Fort Pierce side, above the dam on the Fort Pierce side, and then the 1970s building that was built, and it's perfect. It is ready to go. We could have come in. It would have been a great story. We took an old piece of abandoned building and we updated it and we're using it. But when we went through and did the financial impact, it would have cost us about $70 million to pipeline under the Missouri River to bring it over to the west side of the dam. So now our primary station, our focus is up on Lake Oahe.
Okay.
It's roughly an ounce per gallon that we will be taking out to have the needs of our members in western South Dakota, their water. So when you... Yes, so if you look at this map, where it talks about the 1 ounce, the study was done, and if you look between the North Dakota border and the Iowa border, the Missouri River is South Dakota's greatest natural resource. It is ours. And if you look at the top where it talks about lowest flow record, up in Bismarck was 6,920 million gallons a day. And then if you look down at the Iowa, they took the factors and they kept put it at the lowest level that the Missouri River has ever been. It's nowhere near that now, but at the lowest level, it would be 1 ounce per gallon. So if you look at the Missouri River when it flows through, as I said, it's our greatest natural resource. Once it's out of our borders, of course, it is a resource of the next state. There are currently 9 pieces of legislation of states below us that are looking to pipeline into the Missouri River. If we don't utilize it, somebody will. One as far away as Arizona is going to pipeline over to the Missouri River and capture the water. So it puts a little perspective on, while it's here, it is ours. As I was stating before, that engineers, we always have a plan A, and that is the water main, the pipeline coming over the Missouri River. We also worked on what they call Plan B, and I call Plan A+. As I said, we're interdependent. a regionalization of a water system is Plan A plus or Plan B. Because we're looking at the northern hills, which is flush with water, which is recharging, and they're not taking as much water out as is being recharged in. But to do a connectivity of the Black Hills with a regional water system. Now that is not to replace current water system. This is regionalization, not duplication. We are looking here at supplementation to the current water systems that are working here in the Black Hills, because they're doing great. Now, there is aging infrastructure that is an issue, but I don't want to try to pull any thunder from the water systems that are out here now. They're doing yeoman's work, usually with one person, and one person that can't take a holiday because they're the only person that knows how to run the water system to keep it going for their customers. We talk with a lot of them, and we reassure them that we're not looking to overtake. We are more of a wholesaler of water. We get it here, the water comes to Rapid City, then at that point, those that are members, the 50 members, our engineers go in and work with their teams, looking at the entire system that they have. They make recommendations, they talk about connections, how we're going to get the water here. That has all currently been done. We only have 3 of our members that an assessment has not been done with.
Who are they?
Winter, South Dakota. Yep, because the Missouri River goes down and we do all of western South Dakota. So as soon as you become a member, even if you're an individual member, I think of the membership the same. You can be a Class 1 member, which is $2,500. You can be a $1,500 dollar member, which you have to be a water supplier or a city or a county to be those two. Or you can be an individual. We have an individual that is a member that is south of Edgemont. We've gone down, looked at their connections, done the testing on their water systems. We go to every single member, be it an individual or a city or a county. I look at them all the same. They receive the
We've been done,
City of Sturgis?
yes.
Okay, I will put that down.
I mean, we've been a member for over a year now.
All right, I will,
And again, we're in the northern Black Hills. Our water supply is phenomenal. I mean, we're probably the only community in the Black Hills that is truly well water. I mean, every other community
Right.
has surface water that is augmented by wells. City of Sturgis is unique that we're 100% well water.
yes. Yeah, you guys are sitting very, very well with clean well water.
Question, when you're talking about winter,
Mhm.
keep going west and going into, the Pine Ridge area. Is that those places like the Rosebud?
Okay.
Ridge?
Yep, I can address that. As a nonprofit agency, we cannot engage a tribal nation. It has to be a nation-to-nation ask. So we're doing it 2 different ways. We're working with the BIA in Washington, D.C. Actually, our annual meeting is on Thursday down at K-Bar S. You're welcome to come. The information's on the interweb on our Facebook page. We have the sitting secretary of water from the BIA coming out to do a presentation this week or this Thursday. So we are working on it. There are 2 spots on our board that are kept specifically for tribal nations. Now, they change. You know, the president changes, it doesn't become a priority. They pull the person off the board. It's just been kind of migratory. They come in, we make progress, and then they leave. I am also working with a couple of people that enjoy they are tribal members that enjoy relationships on the reservations. We can't do this without them being involved. Now, how that happens is being worked on. We've got the BIA, we've got the Bureau of Interior, we've got the Department. These are all federal agencies that are engaging them to find a few contacts that we can ensure that they are involved. I mean, we've got Martin, the city of Martin is a member, but it's so needed down there that we cannot afford to neglect them. Let's just put it this way. We won't neglect them. Even if we have to build the pipeline up to the reservoir border and say at this point, you take it over. But until we can get them to have full buy-in.
So would you interconnect into the Mini-Wachoni?
Yes, we would utilize Mini-Wachoni and West River Lyman Jones is, he's our board president. So we have those members that we're not looking, we don't want to build. Where we can use current infrastructure and our members are on board, we will do that. And Mini-Wachoni, West River Lyman Jones, perfect example. Fort Pierre didn't become a member. I mean, they're right on the Missouri River. You think that they're okay. Pierre offered them, West River Lyman Jones offered them, and for about 25 years, they turned on every possible water system. So now Fort Pierre gets all of their water from West River Lyman Jones. West River Lyman Jones their contract is done in 29. West River Lyman Jones more than likely is going to have to cut off Fort Pierre because their members, their clients, need their water, need that, that gallon of water which they are allocated. And they don't want to cut off Fort Pierre because that's their largest paying client. I believe it's $1 million at least a day that Fort Pierre uses. So Fort Pierre now, living next to the Missouri River, is going to be in a water desert. So they are a member, and we are working to find them. We're working with them and with West River Lyman Jones and the other water systems that are around there to help get Fort Pierre more water. We went out to Fort Pierre and we designed a conservation plan, gave them everything because they're a member. Our marketing team and our engineers drew out a conservation plan for them, and they're implementing it now. But we just slide it across the table. Here's everything that you need, from marketing to public relations to letters that go out to the citizens of, the townspeople of Fort Pierre. So where we're at federally, what has to happen there, the next slide is feasibility. And what a feasibility study is when the federal government gets involved, when we're talking a project of this size under the Bureau of Reclamation. Bureau of Reclamation is a reactionary department. They can't do anything unless Congress deems that they can do it, which is sad because they know what they're doing. So a feasibility has to happen. We've got Thune on one end who's looking with a line item specifically for Western Dakota that will be dropped before the end of the year. Then we've got Senator Rounds on the other end, and he's looking to get the reauthorization of the Rural Water Supply Act, which will give teeth to the Bureau of Reclamation. So we're attacking it from both ends. So what happens at that point when a feasibility study is engaged? The Bureau of Reclamation out of Bismarck comes down and they look at all of the possibilities. They look at environmental. They look at, is it feasible? Is it financially viable? That's what they do. But a good thing that we did when I talked about that $10 million is that we took that and invested it in our engineers. So if you look at this chart right here, this is what a feasibility study looks like. This is what has to be done. Everything for the feasibility study that we've already done has a check mark. So that means when we get approval, we can slide all of our data across the table to the Bureau of Reclamation. We've invested it in taking something that's a 2 to 3 year process down to a 12 to 18 month process. So we've really invested the state's money into moving this process as quickly as forward as possible. The next graph I just threw in, it's the one with the pie chart in it. This is water outtake from the Missouri River. So if you look right now, East River versus West River, 81% of the current permits go East River. West River has 9 to 10% of those permits. And then there's also I threw in the future use permits, which means they've granted those permits in the idea that you may need them at some time. So if you look at that, 19% are for West River and 81% of the allocation are going East River. I just found that chart interesting. And then there's our greatest hits, and we're coming to an end here. Just this is where we are at in our progress currently. I'm not going to go through and read those to you. And then the map that is yellow, those are our current members, the dots right there. And it actually we need to add another one in there, just to give you an idea of where our footprint is currently. And then finally, with the membership comes me. I was in the legislature for a decade. I've worked with doing lobbying in DC. I am a marketing and public relations person. I am also a grant writer. That's my official title, but over 30 years you put on a few different hats, and I focused on honing in those skills. So as a member, you will have representation in peer. I have taken it on with my boards, that I will be the lobbyist for Western South Dakota when it comes to water issues. I was recently named to the Governor's GRIT Task Force, which is Governor's Resilience Infrastructure Task Force, on the subcommittee on water and wastewater. And so working on that also. And I'm open for questions.
I've got one, Kristen. When will the board decide between the feasibility of option A and option A plus? I mean, to me, that really is the big question.
Right.
And they're two completely different projects. And the last that I guess I was involved or know about, I mean, when we were looking at bringing the water, all the way from the river over, was the cost, and to make it affordable
Right.
for the end user. That was
Right.
going to be a challenge, just due to the extreme cost of the entirety of the project. And then, like you said, they kind of shifted and came up with option A plus,
Yeah.
which was more of a regionalization. And I believe, from what I understand, the concept would be to have a pipeline that basically would follow the interstate corridor from the north going south down to Rapid City to augment that water supply. When will those decisions be made on what is the more feasible project?
That is a great question, and that is not in our hands. The federal government gets to make that decision, but we are going to come with,
How so?
they get to decide what's feasible. Literally, it's a feasibility study, and they get to choose. They could take the pipeline and say, okay, you need to change these 7 things or these 72 things, and we're good. They could look at the option of regionalization and say, this is more cost effective. They get to decide. We wanted to give them more than one option, and we knew we had to start doing it 4.5 years ago, because once we get them here, we want to move forward as quickly as possible.
Was there a recommendation?
The feasibility study has not been engaged. We're waiting for Congress to give Bureau of Reclamation the thumbs up. Now, they've been down here several times, and they've looked at things, but they cannot act. They can only react. But then in the end, they get to decide.
When do you anticipate that would start in
Next summer.
next summer?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Question as well then, say that A plus is what is approved, and say it moves forward. My big curiosity then would be, what would happen to the existing water rights out of the Missouri River that are owned by Rapid City and Western Dakota?
Well, they can hold on to them as long as they renew them.
So I mean, it would be up to them to renew them, but basically they're sitting there idle.
Which is, yes, what future water rights are. They're just sitting there. They're allocated. There's a difference between availability and allocation. They can allocate. I believe East River's way over allocated, in my mind, and being new to the water game.
And there is, just FYI, there is, and I forget the name of it, there is actually another, they're working on, and they're much further behind, but there's another regional water system,
Web.
yeah, that's being
And
created.
yes,
in
so if you look at
Eastern
what we're trying to do,
And actually, that one goes into, I think, 3 other states.
yes, and we do not go out of state. There are 7 large water systems on the east side. We are one. We are attempting to do what 7 large water systems are doing on the east side right now. So there's Webb and Winds that are updating, and Webb which is kind of central eastern South Dakota. It will overlay some of the other water systems if I've read everything correctly, but it's more working in concert than trying to take customers away from each other.
Kristen, are there other water pipelines on the scale of the one that you're mentioning here already in existence in the United States?
Oh, yes. Yes. You know, whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting. Water is a huge, huge issue right now.
So the engineering.
It's already in place.
steps that are-
Yep.
Would be involved in not only do you have to build it, but you have to operate it.
Of course.
So, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The
No.
knowledge base is there.
Yep. And we're unveiling at our annual meeting on Thursday, the systems, the lift stations, everything is all ready to go. The engineers have spent 4 years on that.
Have you guys looked at all at any type of water reuse?
Yes, extensively. Extensively. I wish I had an engineer here. I don't want to say something that's incorrect. I know that it's been extensively.
I mean, I know our plant is we're the only MBR plant in the state of South Dakota, and the quality of water that we produce is, I mean, it's basically sterile water. It's
Yes.
cleaner than drinking water.
You don't have to treat it a lot.
No.
Yeah.
And again, just that technology in other parts of the nation that have water issues, that, I mean, reuse is a big thing.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And again, not necessarily saying that the reuse has to be drinking water, but if you're using that water for other things, that takes away from what you're pulling out of the
Agricultural.
ground.
And that's a huge part of that's built into ours, not for watering crops, but for livestock.
I see in your financial report, you have $23,000. You've spent a lot of money.
We have spent a lot of money. That would be the ARPA money. And so that was the $10 million investment, and that went completely to the engineering and for the past 4 years. We are overseen by 3 sets of accountants. So we've got not only my in my office, then we have a independent accountant, then we have the state. We're heavily scrutinized on everything, what can be taken out of which pot. So what happens is swarms money, which is out of the Department of Ag. And any water system can come in and ask for a grant. We asked for a grant of $1 million in '23 and received it. With every $1 million that you receive, you have to have a matching a quarter of it, so raising $250,000. We got it in '24, another $1 million. So we had to raise an additional $250,000, which we've done. We did not put in an ask in 25. We did not put in an ask this year. We will be putting in an ask for the 27 legislative session. So we've sat out 2 years. We've taken that money and watched every penny of it. We don't have a lot of overhead. It's me. And then I have an office manager because it's such a heavily accounting component.
What are you hoping to accomplish when you have your meeting down at the KBRS?
You know, the beginning is for the public. It's more what we talk about here, but it gets into greater detail. If you are an engineering or a water person, it's going to get into pretty heavy into the weeds. Then, of course, the BIA sitting secretary for Indian Water is going to be, Native American Water is going to be giving a speech that some might find uncomfortable. Because if you really think about it, superior water rights are to the reservations on the east side of the Missouri River per the treaty. All water is superior water rights to the tribes. Now, what they have not done, which a lot of tribes all over the country has done, is they need to put a dollar value to it, and they have not done that yet. she's gonna talk about that. I think it's coming. And, you know, that's their right. For every gallon that's taken out, they should get a cut. It's not, I'm not a big fan of it, but that's what it is. It's per the treaty. What else? And then for members, as you are a member, you get to go into the business meeting, which starts at 1 o'clock. Then that gets down into the financials of where we're spending our money. We're going to unveil our projected cost for the project. And then we have the business meeting like you have here with the minutes and the approvals and all of that. So as a member, you can send somebody, well, you can send several people if you'd like.
Todd and I both plan
Yep.
on being at the meeting.
Yep.
Well, I think it's a wonderful project and great effort so far. We'll hope that the feasibility study gets approved by Congress.
From your mouth, man. I mean,
Go, go, go.
yeah, yeah.
It reminds me of that Field of Dreams movie by Kevin Costner. If you build it, they will come. So if you build it, they will come.
Users will come, but you have to remember that the initial study that was done, it was based on where we're at now, the people that are here now. It's for our children, and it's generational. Is really what it is. It's not to get a data center. It's not to entice those people, because those things will go up irregardless of whether we want those or not. I shouldn't say irregardless. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But us bringing water to the residents of Western South Dakota has nothing to do with it. I just want my daughter to be able to turn on the faucet and have it be reliable and clean.
Perfect. Thank you, Kristen. We appreciate you coming down and visiting with the Municipal Utility Board, and look forward to seeing you later this week down at the annual meeting. I do. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, approval of the minutes from August 26th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the claims.
So moved.
Wait, could I just ask?
Sure.
What were all those refunds?
Those are when accounts close or they change. Typically, most of them are the deposits that are put down, or if they close their account before the end of the month, those are the refunds that they get back, that we have the money.
Was there anything outstanding on here? I see you paid the RCS construction.
Yeah, and so, again, please keep in mind that those RCS construction, that's part of our Well 8 program, that's an SRF-funded project. We do that initial payment, and then we submit to the state and get reimbursed, and so that's what those large payments are. We will get reimbursed through our SRF loan.
And I can't wait for the tour of that.
We're getting close. We're doing the final stages of it. Been pumping it to get the water clean and getting the chemical injection right. So soon, yeah, we should be able to get you guys in there soon.
Okay, so, sorry, considered approval of the claims.
I moved in second. Do you want me to vote?
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, city financial officer.
I'll tackle that one, or attempt to. Ann unfortunately wasn't feeling well this morning and was unable to make it. Probably one of the biggest things that when we talk financials is we continue to balance and reconcile our books, and the finance office has made significant headway in that. part of another piece of the pie that we've been looking at is I guess we're kind of calling it an internal audit, where we're really looking at all of our, when we talk about our utility accounts, we're talking water, sewer, garbage, all of our utility accounts, and making sure that we're assessing them right and billing them correctly. And in doing so, we have found some discrepancies within those accounts where things may not have been being billed correctly. And for example, you may have a 2 or a 3 inch or a 4 inch water line coming off of our main, but you're only being billed at a 1 inch rate. Again, we've discovered some of these discrepancies. We intend to move forward with direction from the MUB and from the city council to likely correct those. I think that right now, we're poised to probably start that in 2026, and get those right. We're not looking to back bill anybody, but starting January 1 moving forward, to correctly bill those accounts. We did find a fairly significant finding or an error in the way that our wastewater was being billed, and part of our software was not quite set up correctly, and the numbers input correctly from day one, 10 years ago. And so it was only ever billing out to the minimum. It was never, and all of our water and all of our wastewater is billed based on the amount you use. It was never calculating anything above the base rate, regardless of how much you used. Just applying some quick math, that appears like that could be, missed revenue of somewhere $140,000 a year. So again, this was something that we needed to do. It's ongoing. It's a work in progress. Some of these items, we don't identify them, and some of them come about because we're doing a repair. For example, Todd and his guys may go out and change a water meter because it's broke or something is going on, and we go out there and yep, it's a 2 inch meter and blah blah blah. We come back and we're updating the records, and come to find out they're only being billed, or it was set up as a 1 inch account. And again, if you recall, our rates are based on the size of your service, and then of course the amount that you're being billed. So we're close to being comfortable that we're done with what we're looking for, but not quite. So I anticipate some more information on that to you guys in the future, and I'll circle back to that a little bit in my report and talk a little bit more about the rates, because this will come into factor with the rates, of course. But that's kind of the financial situation of where we're at.
Any customer concerns?
We don't.
Water superintendent report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'll keep it short and sweet if I can. We had a good run, not a lot of water leaks, and now seems like service lines are wanting to let go. We've repaired one, and I've got 2 more on the docket. They're not bad leaks, but hopefully tomorrow things go well and we solve one of them, and as soon as we have time and staff, we will tackle the other one. Hopefully this will be the end of it till it freezes. I anticipate the weather changing to bring us more, unfortunately. Right now we are draining the south tank for part of the Well 8 project. It's something I started yesterday. It doesn't seem to want to drain as fast as I had hoped, but we are slowly getting it whittled down so that they can install new piping in the pit, which will include an altitude valve, which will allow us to utilize our wells more efficiently, filling both ends of town.
Just maybe if you explain what an altitude valve does, I mean, it
Sure.
controls the tank level.
So all of our wells are set on tank levels to when they run. And right now, the big draw is on the north tank. So I'm not able to fill it. For some reason, the water wants to migrate to the south tank. So as I'm filling the north tank, I mean, there is a static level. They're just offset, okay? Not by very much, but the water tends to flow to my south tank where it'll overflow, so I have to run the north tank at a lower level. Now with an altitude valve, it has a pressure switch in there, and well, we'll just call it a pressure switch. But once it hits a certain PSI, this valve will close, shutting off water going into the tank. So now all of my production will proceed to the north tank to fill it, so my wells don't continually run. When that altitude valve shuts, there is a bypass with a check valve that will allow water to flow out, but not in. So as demand comes off of that tank, I'm still using it, but I'm also filling the other tank. So it's should be improve things, our efficiency immensely. There's going to be a learning curve with it. I will state that. I have to learn what wells to run and when, because I do anticipate a 5-pound pressure increase as we're pushing through town, which is.
And that's probably a good talking point too, is understanding, we have 8 wells, but we never run all 8 wells at the same time. And actually Todd has figured out, and even before our time, I mean, there's certain wells that we run together and usually it's 2 or maybe 3 wells at any given time.
Yes, that's, if you were to fire everything up at once, I'm afraid we would be in big trouble. There would be some of the lines would just, they would give way. We would overpressure. Friction loss is a big thing, and pressure, and therefore older lines are going to be exposed if we increase our pressure too much. So as I'm running into this cautiously as we get set, we're going to go increments and see where we sit. So, but this is a good thing to have getting done. It's the right time of year. I think having this tank low is scary. But we're it's been a great year for fire danger, and we're in the right time of year. I'm hoping that we get her whipped in time before we have any issues. Through the process, customer concerns, not really relatable, but it applies to that. There are some houses that are built at a very high elevation. They themselves have to have their own booster pump to get water because they're sitting on 1 pound or less. And unfortunately, I had a hit on the north tank when I shut the south tank down to where the water got low enough. I had one resident contact me who didn't have water. He was good. We talked it through. I was able to bump things. I reached out to him yesterday evening. He got back to me, and by 8 o'clock he was back in water, and I haven't heard since. So I think that concern got handled. It was a learning curve for me. I've never had that tank empty. And of course, this is a new house that wouldn't have applied to anyone having it empty before as well. So, other than that, we have been very busy with inspections, and we also have done some valve box repairs. We're fighting that a little bit. Other things seem to come up where we've got to do a lot of hand digging to try to lower them so we don't hit them with snow plows, and we've got a deal to hit them. I mean, because you want the smallest patch possible. We don't want to tear the whole street up, bring a backhoe for a $75 part. I mean, it's not fiscally responsible. It just, sometimes we don't have the time or manpower with all the other activities going on. We've been inundated with locates. It seems like everyone has a project they want to get done before the snow flies. So, other than that, are there any questions? Tom, you're piercing me with those eyes.
The personnel is doing fine,
Yes,
fully staffed.
We're down one
down.
employee in the water division.
yep, thank you.
Public Works Director report.
Well, good, kind of to piggyback off of some of what Todd was talking about. We are very busy. We did make one of the connections to the Hidden Hills Valley View subdivision, which did require an overnight shutdown. Thankfully, the crews and the developer and Todd and his crews were able to do the water shut off, which affected all of the new housing to the north up by the Avalanche Road. We had to completely shut that water down when they did the tie-in, and I believe we started that at 10 p.m. and then had water restored prior to 5 a.m. the next morning. So it was not a significant impact, but certainly greatly appreciate Todd sticking around overnight to ensure that that was done, get the system back up and running, and again, had the least amount of impact to anybody because everybody for the most part was sleeping while the water was off. But that was the line that feeds our booster station, and so again, we had, since we built that, had never had that shut down, so a little bit of a learning curve on our side, and then to get it energized back up and make sure all the air is out of the lines and everything is functioning correctly. Kudos to Todd and his crews to make sure that that happens. So they have made that connection, and they are continuing to, actually all of the water lines are installed, the main line. They're working on storm sewer now. And then here before too long, I would guess they're gonna be making taps to the individual lots. So again, that will increase the workload for the water department because we will have to be there and go in and inspect all of those taps. But everything is progressing reasonably on that project. Didn't necessarily get started when they thought they would, but now that they have, everything is moving forward. Again,
Construction by the community center all the way up to
so that construction is a sewer main. That, if you remember, the first part of it was to get the sewer along the creek, and we went behind the old Compass Point and up through McDonald's and Silver Street. That portion of the project is getting ready to get finalized. The boring underneath the Bear Butte Creek, which gets sewer to that development, is all completed, and the piece that they're finishing right now is really from Runnings to McDonald's. Most of that, half of that, actually now all of that sewer line is in. They do have to finish doing the curb gutter inside. The curb and gutter is all done. They're finishing the sidewalks now, and then they'll be paving the roads probably later this week or early next week. They do have an October completion date on that whole project, so that one's progressing. The other part that's happening, which is the phase 2 of that project, and is another contractor that's going through by the post office through the community center lot, and to the west is the replacement of some sewer mains. When we put this project together, and we had an area of town generally from about 6th Street on up to 11th, 12th in there, where we experienced a lot of lines that homes would back up when we would get rainwater, when we would get I&I, and in evaluating those sewer lines, we come to find out that some of them were at no grade or actually negative, and what I mean by that is they wouldn't gravity flow, and so the pipes would retain the wastewater, and they would build up back pressure until it had enough pressure and then would surge forward. That was just due to grades. So that part of that project, we're going in and removing those manholes, setting new manholes, and then putting in new main line that has an appropriate grade to it, so that all of our sanitary sewer is gravity fed all the way out to our plant. And so you have to have the appropriate grade to make sure that that sewer flows. So that piece of the project is to remedy that. We ran into a little bit of a unforeseen problem in the alley, actually right behind the where the Kiwanis food pantry is. There was a gas line that was not correctly marked during the planning phases, and so when we went to construction, they're digging along and they came across this MDU line that now has to be relocated because it conflicts with where the sewer line needs to be installed. So that put a little bit of a hiccup in that project while MDU goes through their channels and drives their work order and then lines up a crew to get the line moved. We're kind of on a standstill doing what we need to do. Looking at the schedule, I did get a updated schedule this morning, and they were able to jump to some other areas of that project. So they still will end up with a completion date later in October for that entire project. I believe next week is the plan to repave Kinship and the community center lot. So we'll have that portion open back up and ready to go. Other thing that I wanted to talk about, and we got into a little bit, and I owe you guys some follow-up, is on our rates. And again, talking about the internal audit of our accounts that we're doing, likely where we're landing right now is our recommendation may be to have a very minimal or no rate increase of our base rates. And again, kind of following up from our conversation last month, one of the things that we're really looking at is the per $1,000 or per 1,000 gallon amount that we're billed. That's the cost to produce a gallon of water is how we generate that, and probably a more significant change that we're really looking at, and it affects a little over a third of our accounts. And generally speaking, these are going to be our elderly residents or low-income residents who are using 2,000 gallons or under, which again, we pull a report, and it's a little over a third of our customers that would fall into this category. Is right now, currently, the way that our rate structure is set up, you pay a base rate, a flat fee, and then per each 1,000 gallons, you pay so much per 1,000 gallons. We would like to raise that, but also at the same time include in the base rate 2,000 gallons. So in the base rate that you're already paying, you would have 2,000 gallons included in that. And again, that would take care of a little bit of over a third of our accounts would actually see a slight decrease in their water bill. Of course, the high users would pay more. And again, I ran my own account for an example. And in the summertime, when I have my sprinkler system on and I'm watering every other day or whatever, generally speaking, my increase to water and use that excessive amount would be around $6 a month for me. So again, not a lot of money, and it would be my choice to decide whether or not I want to continue to water and have a green yard, not pay that. So the ones that it affects the most are the higher users, and again, they would have a choice to be able to do that or change their water consumption to adjust for that. But in doing that, that would offset the revenue that we're losing by allowing the 2,000 gallons and under be a part of the base rate. So I think that that's a great compromise, and it affects a lot of the people who likely wouldn't be able to afford any sort of a increase. If we do that, along with some of the other billing measures that we have in that we need to take care of, again, I think that we would be coming back to you guys, making a recommendation for your consideration to likely to have no rate increase or a very minimal rate increase. But we're not quite ready to that point to provide you the information and have you make that recommendation to the council. So again, I know from the last meeting, I said we were gonna follow up, maybe have a special meeting. We got going down that road and that path, and we just we don't have everything compiled to give you guys all the information needed so you can make a decision.
It sounds logical, the direction of what you're trying to create. Sounds logical.
So,
Karen,
so with that, I guess that's really kind of what we've been working on here the last 30 days or so. And again, Aaron is tired. I know he's tired. We've been tirelessly working on budgets. I don't see any substantial changes in the water budget. Probably the biggest one that we've had some discussion in council direction and we'll be moving forward with at some point in time is and it affects our revenue is for ages and ages we've been billing ourselves and even to the point where water pays water bills, which again, we just seems to when we evaluate that, that's a lot of unnecessary time and energy. I mean, why would water bill water? Why would parks pay? I mean, we still meter that water and account for it, but actually paying a water bill from the city another department probably doesn't make a lot of sense. We don't do it with sewer and we don't do it with garbage. Water was the only one we're doing. So again, that's part of our evaluation. And when we look at the budget, and if you think about, for example, the parks and all the irrigation with the sports fields and the community center, I mean, it's a significant dollar amount, but number one, it helps the general fund, which is probably our hardest hit fund, you know, and we're not transferring from the general fund into an enterprise fund. So that certainly affects the revenue, the bottom line, but again, looking at everything, I think those are some adjustments that we can make and benefit the community and the city as a whole and help heal up the general fund a little bit when we take a look at doing those things. So been working a lot on the budgets. Aaron, anything you want to add budgeting wise?
I think some of the challenges that we, you know, on the preparing the budget is that historically, at least for the last, you know, several years, it's been kind of a centralized process. It happened with a couple people, you know, talking with some of the department heads and pulling all that together. Last year, the council implemented more of a decentralized approach where you get more involvement from your department heads, and that's what we've been working on is getting all our department heads to be able to look at the different systems that we have that pull the information so they can look at where they sit in terms of what their current budget is in terms of revenue projections, how they stand against what we projected, where they stand against their expenses based on what they expected those expenses to be, and then using those tools to be able to stay up to date. So part of the challenge for us is that, you know, coming in into the beginning of the year, you know, we weren't reconciled at all for the previous year. We did get reconciled in 2024's back in June, and now we're starting slowly catching up to getting up to real time when it comes down to reconciliation. So that kind of slowed the process down when it came down to preparing the budget. We wanted to make sure we had as much good financial information to make those kind of determinations, and B was just, you know, the other things that we've been working on. So to me, it's been I'm tired. I think we're all tired, but it's been a good, to me, a good process, educational for me, educational for the department heads. You know, the intent is in the future when we're always going to have turnover. You know, you have people that retire, people move on to other opportunities, but you don't want a situation like that where you lose one or two people and it kind of breaks the system, right? You want the system to be resilient enough to be able to absorb those kind of losses and continue to function at least at 95 or percent efficiency. So the more that we power this down to all our department heads and kind of empower them to use the tools to be able to manage their budget, explain their budget, stay on top of it. If there's problems, we can fix it now You know, as we go through the budget process and reconciliation of 2025, we're identifying problems from back in January, and there's a series of them. And that takes a long time to be able to fix those kind of things. But if we stay on top of it, then, you know, it's like when you're reconciling your own bank account. If you don't reconcile it for a year and you see those problems, you got to back up for 12 months and be able to make those changes. But if you're staying on top of it, you know, every week, every month, it's easier to make those adjustments. It's more relevant in your mind what the issue was, and you can stay on top of it. So from my perspective, you know, we're building those kind of tools in terms of having an understanding, and then it's not just on the city administrator, it's just not on the finance director, it's not just some of our directorates. We're spreading those responsibilities for all the departments, and you know, as we go into 2026, they'll continue to build their understanding of the tools and how to manage their budgets more effectively. You bet.
Back to that point, water, was that maybe put in place back when the water department was kind of separate from it?
Probably, I mean, that would be a likely reason, or, you know, back, if you go back to when the city purchased the Davenport Water Company, they were more individual, and so that, you're probably spot on, Sean. And again, we just, over the decades, carried that through.
That's been forever. I mean, the community center, I mean, we've been paying for water down there to fill the pool and everything forever.
You know, I think one of the things that helped us on that is, you know, with some of the, turnover that we've had, right? We've distributed some work and some of those responsibilities around a little bit. And so in at least the recent past, I can't go back way long ago, but a lot of that stuff was always contained in the finance office. But when you're going out and doing the work like Todd's going out there and looking and finding that we have, you know, we're billing somebody at a 1 inch when they actually have a 3 inch, that relationship, that communications was not occurring like it probably should have. So as soon as we started identifying the problem, you know, Rick, Amy and Todd, basically that whole group there, you know, said we need to do an audit to kind of determine, you know, what the size of this problem may be. And it ended up being a lot bigger than what we anticipated. But the fact that I think we got Public Works, the water department more involved in our financial system and having access to that information allows them to understand if there's a problem or not. You know, so for those 10 years that we've been using Cassell, and that's our financial system, when we set up for the water piece of it, you didn't have that kind of a relationship where you could, you know, if there was problems identified, you know, there was that communications relationship or responsibility to be able to make that work. So again, one of the outcome, I mean, it's been kind of a tough couple of years, but, you know, one of the positives out of that is that we were able to get the water department more involved in that financial system, and so they were able to identify those problems.
So old business we kind of covered with you a little bit, right? And then any new business?
So for new business, I added this. I was contacted here over the last month. The rodeo club, who has a lease on some property from the school out east of town, where they're building their new arena. They've built a new concession stand and bathroom structure. They are now working towards their water and sewer needs, and of course, we don't have any water beyond we end at Fort Meade. So their plan, they have an agreement with the school that they're able to tie into the school's water, which again, we don't have a problem with that. The school is served water by Fort Meade, so we have requested, I haven't gotten yet. I did get a copy of that agreement between the school and the booster club, or the rodeo club, and that all looks good. We don't have any issues with that. I have not received confirmation yet. I asked that we get something from Fort Meade that says that they're okay and able to provide them water. The other option, where that property is located, there is actually a service line stubbed out from Bear Butte Valley Water, so that's gonna be one of their two, resources or abilities, is to hook into Fort Meade. If Fort Meade doesn't think they have enough capacity to serve them, then they would have to connect into Bear Butte Valley. Again, we don't have necessarily any problems with that, but we wanted to make sure that the MUB was aware of that and how it was gonna be structured, that those wouldn't be necessarily city water lines, even though they're in the city limits. They're not drilling a new well, they're gonna make some kind of an existing connection. And then, of course, our sewer lines already run from the school over and then from the kickstart down, so they'll be required to tie into the city sewer for that building. So just wanted to provide you an update. I'd hope that possibly I would have something in writing from Fort Meade to present to you, but we haven't had that. Todd has actually talked to them, and they acknowledge they're aware of it. They, again, the people that we talked to didn't know in the hierarchy and the politics of things where an agreement was, but that I mean, they were certainly aware of it. So hopefully by next meeting, we'll maybe carry this over and we'll have that contract for you to look at. Again, I don't think there's any issues with it, just more so to make you guys aware of how that's gonna be serviced. One of the other things that has come up over the past couple of months, and again, I had some conversations late last week, is with the National Guard, and they're making preparations. Of course, they're moving their location and footprint from the Exit 30 site. They're planning to build a facility out there on the property that they bought from the school. They're gonna have similar water and sewer needs for that facility. So again, not sure if Fort Meade is gonna have the ability to service all of that. I would guess that complex probably likely is gonna have to be tied into Bear Butte Valley water. They have a greater capacity than, Fort Meade uses surface water that comes out of the watershed up in the canyon and goes on the top of the hill, and they treat it. And then, so when we get into drought situations or drought years, their water system is compromised because they're truly just running off of groundwater. We have an agreement with them that should they get low on water, that we can turn a valve and interconnect to Fort Meade, but the state frowns on interconnections of deep well, Madison, Minnelusa Formation well, interconnectivity with groundwater. And that was, years ago when we had the dams, I mean, we had to sever that connection for the same reason. They don't want those two, and actually they don't even want the formations interconnected. So we had well number 1 wasn't in the Madison and Minnelusa, and we had to re-drill it so that we didn't have cross-contamination with the different formations. So lots of things to think about, but that project, and I think, Aaron, they shared with you, has been funded, but it's still likely 5 years out from being completed. So good to see that they're working on things, and like I said, I talked to them last week. They were asking about the as-built on the sewer lines, and we sent that to them. So planning is certainly underway for that.
Rick, you mentioned Bear Butte Valley water system. There's a line, where does it come to?
So it comes right to the corner of what would be the school property and the Glencoe by the Thunderdome. That's as far west as Bear Butte Valley comes. And the reason it comes that far and into the city limits was when that water system was put online, that wasn't the city limits yet. That was actually in the county, so they have that, that little bit of area. The same with the Kickstart and the Glencoe, all of that property is all serviced by Bear Butte Valley Water, even though they're in the city limits.
And our city water line, how far out of town does it go towards the school?
We don't. We end right at basically at the park by Lions Club, down in that area. Yeah.
Do you foresee us ever doing something to extend our water line?
So I don't know, Tom, if we would extend a new line. That's certainly an option, but probably an option that is more viable and that has at some level been on the table several times is taking over or purchasing the Fort Meade water system and using that existing infrastructure. Again, we're already connected to it. We may have to do some upgrades, but that's probably more likely of an option, would be that we would take that on, and then that would get us out to the high school area. And then from there, we could probably extend and service, and anything else, any of the future growth out there.
The arena that you're talking about out at the high school, is that on?
It's on the very east side, so
Very
the,
east side.
so the high school is here, and then the National Guard bought, I believe it was 50 acres somewhere in there in the middle, and then the school, because they have a greater footprint, kind of a U shape, and then comes back up right on the fence line with where the Thunderdome is, and that's the area that they have I forget if it might be a 100-year lease with the school, the rodeo club does, and they built, you can't see it from the highway, but you can see the road they built in, and it goes back, and they've actually built a building and an arena back there.
So Fort Meade is a surface water system. Is it good water?
Yeah, I mean, they have to treat it, and that's what that big building up on the top of above Sly Hill is a treatment plant. For example, our deep well, we don't treat. I mean, we add a little bit of chlorine to disinfect, and then the mandated fluoride. They actually have to do more of a process like our wastewater, where they're treating and removing minerals and bacteria to make it drinkable water. So just two different sources. And that'd be similar to like what Rapid City does when we talk about surface water. They're pulling water, that's coming out of Pactola and down Rapid Creek. That would be considered surface water. And of course, it's got to be treated differently than groundwater, well water.
Would there ever be a potential, excuse me for so much time, would there be a potential that Fairview Valley water system would continue to the National Guard, the school, and back to Fort Meade?
If they wanted to expand, that would have to come before this board and through the city council to allow them. I mean, our current ordinances and regulations don't allow that. So without having the city approval, they couldn't expand into the corporate limits. No different than you can't drill a well. I mean, certain occasions we've allowed people, actually even within our 3 mile, that's part of our 3 mile plating jurisdiction, in is people to, and the last one I can think of was, I mean, we de-annexed that, but the actual well that we have drilled that's within our territory is out by Belgeolet. And that new house that kind of right to the south of that on the right-hand side that the guy built, the MUB allowed him to drill a well, because, I mean, it was just for that one house, it wasn't cost, we weren't able to extend our water lines out and provide him water cost effectively. So, they did allow him, but get authorization to be able to drill that well.
So Fort Meade's water and their fire suppression, their fire hydrants and everything, Todd, all that information, is that available from the government for you or us to have access to know? I mean,
the time
we're
when it
trying to
comes.
buy that system.
I mean, I haven't seen, like I said, this is, in the last 17, 18 years that I've worked here, again, it's been talked about several times, and when we had those sit-down talks, I mean, they certainly provided us with an inventory and a schematic. Again, I don't know, I haven't seen one recently, but if we were to start negotiating that, without a doubt, they would hand over all of their records. And I mean, similar, in our water system, I guess just a little history on it, was never ever the city's. I mean, we purchased the Davenport water system, and then we purchased the Murray. So we've always purchased pre-existing water systems, is how we derived the Sturgis water system, and it would be similar. I mean, we get all those records, we end up, owning the infrastructure and everything that goes along with it. And likely, if we were ever to do that and it worked out, I mean, we would decommission the water treatment, because of course we don't treat our water that way, but that would give us the storage tank up there, which would tie right into our system.
Probably the biggest thing to keep in mind with that would be the water rights that would come with that purchase. I mean, that's, like
Yep.
the lady was saying earlier, that's that true value. Even though we wouldn't use that, we would have water rights for trading stock if we wanted to drill a new well or